Recording good?
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for your patience. We will open the Conservation Commission meeting for August 13th, 2026, and we'll start with roll call. Matt.
Matthew Stoltz.
Richard Johnson.
Mark LePage.
Michael Ryan.
Nicole Sharamonte.
I saw Roger.
Roger Trahan.
All right, Louis.
Louis Puga.
All right, so we're all here. Great. So we've got 3 public hearings listed. We will start with 700, start with 110 Populatic Street. We did receive a request to continue that. So assuming we've got nobody online or in chambers, Nicole, you want to give us a motion to continue the NOI for 110 Populatic Street to August 27th at 7:01 p.m.
I give you a motion to continue.
Yes, stay on mic, please.
I give you a motion to continue the NOI for 110 Populatic Street for August 27th at 7:01.
Second.
All right, Nicole?
Recording in progress.
Vote to, go ahead.
Continue? I don't know if can I?
Yes, because nothing's been discussed since you were
sorry.
out.
Continue?
All right, good question, though. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Okay.
Continue.
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue.
Roger?
Vote to continue.
Louis?
Vote to continue.
All right, motion's continued. Then we move on to the NOI for Nicholas Drive, Prospect Street Emergency Culvert Repair. Again, we had a request for a continuance. So, Michael, you want to give us a continuance on that till August 27th at 7:02 p.m.?
Give you a motion to continue the NOI for Nicholas Drive, Prospect Street Emergency Culvert Replacement to 27 August at 7:02.
Second.
Vote to continue.
Vote to continue.
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 Continue?
Louis?
Continue.
Roger, thank you. Louis?
Continue.
All right, motion continues. Good news. All right, then our final NOI is the one for 23 Anchorage Road. We see we do have folks in chambers. Welcome. Good to see you guys again. How you doing?
Yeah, so I'm the homeowner at 23 Anchorage. I believe we have my environmental consultant, Matt Morrow, on the line, and then I believe Eddie Snyder, who's the pool owner, is also on the line to answer any questions and then go over, I guess, the process again
Okay.
to start from scratch.
Hi guys, this is Matt Morrow here. I'm actually speaking to you from Florida right now.
All right,
So
Matt, we'll appreciate you
hopefully
tuning in.
Yeah, hopefully it'll stay connected.
So I think it was 3 meetings ago, we actually went through the entire presentation, not realizing we didn't have the green cards. That's since been rectified, so we are able to open the hearing and discuss. Personally, I don't know that we have a need to completely re-review all the information we were presented, but I'll leave that up to the commissioners if you have something you feel we need to see. Louis or Roger?
Nothing here.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good as well.
I just had one quick question.
Yeah, oh, yeah, no.
Are we open to questions?
Yeah. So, well, actually, I guess, so do you guys, with that understanding, is there anything that you feel you need to present since we've reviewed it? Certainly, it's your dime first, and you're welcome to present. We didn't feel the need to re-review it, but doesn't mean you can't, or if you have something new to add.
No, the only thing I'd like to add, Mr. Chair, is that we did give you the updated plans per your request.
Yeah, actually, oh, thank you, we do have that. Okay. So, actually, great point, Matt. Do you want to just give us a quick summary of the updates to the plans?
Well, the commission asked for a certain specific note on the water, which we did, and you wanted the area or stockpiling marked out at the driveway turnaround, which we also did.
Exactly, and you put no stockpile materials in there too, I see that. Okay, so good catch, thank you for that, we can see that. So, short of that, yeah, Nicole, so if you, or any of the commissioners, we have questions now.
I just had a question as far as the excavating of for the pool. Where is all of that material going? And is the equipment going to be within the 50-foot buffer zone? Because it's very close to the 50-foot buffer zone.
Essentially, the way this is set up is that Mr. Snyder, when he excavate, basically will stay in front of the 50-foot zone. He'll excavate from in front of the zone. There's an area that says stockpile that the commission asked to have put on the area at the driveway turnaround, which is where he would go. That would be your most logical place to enter. Stockpile materials are basically stockpiled temporarily. The vast majority of the material is either removed off-site or there's very little that's stored that's left to do any backfilling that's necessary. In this case, I think it would probably just be stockpiled quickly while it's being loaded and taken away, so it's not going to stay there for very long. There is an erosion control barrier that's placed around that should prevent work from going within 50 feet of the wetland area.
Would you guys be comfortable if we condition no equipment in the 25 to 50-foot buffer?
I don't see why not.
Okay, great. I mean, that might be a nice backup for us, right?
Yes, because I was looking at the plans and I don't know where all that material would be going if,
Yeah,
They have a designated stockpile area.
oh, okay, I thought that was for new material. Thank you.
okay, good questions. Bricolai, any comments?
I couldn't see, I don't know what you can see in the third floor training room, so I had both my hands up. The only comment the suggestion that I have is if the commission wants to condition no equipment, I would ask the applicant to just put some stakes or pin flags or something right along that boundary for line of sight, because it'll be difficult for contractors to know where that boundary is.
Honestly, I think that's a great idea. And Ed Snyder, who I believe may be on the call too, usually does something like that to demarcate so that there's no misunderstanding. So yeah, that's fine. That's a great idea.
Perfect.
All right, that's good. So, yeah, we'll set up 2 conditions that way. That'd be great. Okay. All right, so, any other questions from the commissioners?
I'm good.
Questions from folks in chambers or on Zoom? All right, so I think what we'd look to do is we'll put together the conditions and go to a vote next meeting and get this behind us, if that makes sense. Thank you for the updated plans and getting the green cards.
One question.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So I can't remember, sometimes I feel like maybe we condition about, none of the pool water going into the,
Oh, yes, yeah.
into the wetlands.
Yeah, so I think typically what we look to do is not have the pool drained on site, but if you want to drain it, have the water removed. So you guys a good catch. You guys be okay with that? All right. Yeah, I think we even talked about that, but thank you. Okay, good point. All right, so the goal would be we'll have the conditions written up and we'll go to a vote on the 27th. Make sense, you guys? Okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, great. Appreciate you getting all the updates done. Richard, do you want to give us a motion to continue the NOI for 23 Anchorage Road to August 27 at 7:03?
I give you a motion to continue the NOI for 23 Anchorage Road to August 27th at 7:03.
Second.
All right. Nicole, you want to start it off?
Oh, sure. I vote to continue.
Yep,
Continue?
continue.
Vote to continue.
Continue.
Roger?
Continue.
Louis?
Continue.
All right, motion's continued. All right, guys, thanks a lot. Should be able to get this done next time. Okay?
Sure.
All right, so, moving on, I think the bulk of the meeting will be discussion, but we do have the July 30th minutes. I don't know if anybody had any questions, changes?
I'm good.
addition- Okay. Given that, Michael, you want to give us a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting of July 30th?
Give you a motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 30th.
I'll second that. All
Vote
right.
to approve.
Vote to approve.
Approve?
Approve?
Approve.
Roger?
Approve.
Louis?
Approve.
All right, the minutes are approved. So now we move on to discussion. We got some good stuff going on. So first topic is to go through the bylaws and regulations conversation we've been having. So I think there's two pieces here, right? Maybe three pieces. So where we sat coming out of the last meeting is we've got a red line document or red line recommendations from Beta that is fairly administrative and would clarify some of the language in our bylaws and regulations and move some things that are in the wrong place to the correct place, so fairly administrative. So that would be step one. Under consideration is if we could approve that, then Beta would give us a formal red line version or document. We have our Economic Development Committee presentation and meeting on September 17th. We would present that at that point, ask their help in getting this in front of the town council, which is where it needs to go to be approved. And we'd move forward with that step. So that's a topic, and we can start with that. And the other piece is we talked about last time, and I know Nicole had some thoughts, is looking at the content of the bylaws and the regulations themselves. We want to make additions that are more substantive and less administrative. We thought we'd separate the two because the administration piece is a little time sensitive. It's not written correctly. We want to get it right. A little bit of an easier vote for the town council. So what I would say is let's take the first piece, and we have a couple weeks or a couple meetings, so a few weeks to look at that and think about it. And at this point, I think the point that would be on the table do we want to approve that recommendation from Beta and the cost and move forward with it and get that in front of the EDC. But I know, Nicole, you have had a chance to be part of the discussion, so if you have thoughts on the administrative changes specifically or anything.
No, I thought it does strengthen up what was already done, so.
Okay. Louis or Roger?
I'm good, thank you. I've looked it over and it's good that we're moving this forward quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, likewise.
Bricolai, any final thoughts or comments on that?
Yeah, just a few housekeeping comments. Well, first, Trailer Page, I didn't know if you wanted me to, I started sharing your admin approval presentation. I don't know if you can see that. I shared my screen. Do you see that?
Yep.
At all? Okay. So I didn't know if you wanted to go through that. But namely, once the commission decides to move forward with the comments that you have compiled between the last meeting and this meeting, I'll let John Nero know. He'll begin redlining the document. I will get that back September 10th. That we have a meeting September 10th. That's also a week before EDC, which is September 17th. So preemptively, we can, Jordan and I can add a bylaw discussion to the September 10th meeting, hoping that we would have that red line document so the commission can review it, approve it, and I can give it to Jamie so EDC has it a week ahead of time of their meeting. So we're on tight turnaround, but I definitely think we can do it.
So I think so I do think we want to go through this, Bricolai. Thanks for bringing it up, and that's kind of more germane to EDC, but I think at this point, do we want to approve moving forward with the Beta red line process on the regulations and bylaws, and we ought to vote on that, right? Does that make sense, Bricolai?
Yeah, so it would just be, I guess, voting to allow me to give Beta your suggestions that we've compiled. So they'll draft the red line document based on these comments.
There you go, better said. That's why I asked you. So maybe we just do a simple all in favor, aye.
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 All right, so I think we're good to go on that, Bricolai.
Well done, commissioners.
We accomplished something tonight.
Well,
That's-
I'm not being snarky. Seriously, like this is, you are policy making.
Yeah, no,
It's good.
I think it's been, I actually think it's been a good topic, so.
Yeah.
So two follow-ups of that, if you want to throw that presentation up, right, and we do want to talk about changes, but kind of more germane to the EDC piece, and this came out of our last two meetings, right, we talked about, a way to potentially streamline some things would be able to give Bricolai the okay to do admin approval without having to come back and ratify things for us, right? And what we talked about was doing it in the 50 to 100. So here are the things that I captured from our discussion and pulled up. Tree pruning and branch removal is already exempt, so we're pretty good there. Tree removal, which I think is one of the most common things we deal with, and this is really germane to MBZA's, right, not NOIs, is tree removal, right? So here would be the criteria that we wouldn't have to get involved. We would know after the fact, right? Trees deemed dead or compromised by an arborist, represent imminent danger to a structure, no heavy equipment to utilize in the buffer zone. Applicant agrees to leave stumps in place, and removal must be in proposed existing, right? So that's kind of the stuff that's like the easy lift for us. So this would just say, hey, if it meets all those conditions, Bricolai can give them the okay, and they don't have to come in and explain themselves to us, and we'll just find out afterwards. So that's one component. The other is replacement of existing structures, right? A lot of times this is decks or patios. Again, just throwing out some criteria, same footprint, no increase to structure, a little repetitive, but I was thinking along the lines of the thing we just had where they were gonna put some new footings in, right? So even if it's the same footprint, they were digging footings, that might not be bad to talk about. You know, contained within pre-disturbed again, and no heavy equipment in the buffer zones. So I thought that was a one, again, that Bricolai could handle. Potentially removal of selected invasive species. I think we'd wanna put together a specific list on that. And then the final one was basically perk tests, right? You know, we want people doing that, you know, if they're, a lot of times that's for septic and whatnot, so, I think that's, an easy one.
On the invasives, do we wanna like talk about how they're gonna, you know, like if they're
Great.
gonna be doing
Great ad,
pesticides, maybe we wanna talk about that.
100%, that's a great.
Spray 'em. No, I'm kidding.
No, that, I mean, that's great criteria, right? Removal by hand, right? That's typically what we
Well, isn't there some approved, besides just digging them up? Some spray or something to put on them, isn't there?
There is, I guess the thought is that if they're gonna do that, it'd be great for them to come tell us about it.
Well, that's true, yeah,
So this is kinda like,
what they're gonna use.
yeah, if they agree to remove it by hand and it's on our list, okay, you can do that with Bricolai's approval. If you're gonna use herbicide, we'd like you to come in and
Tell us what it is.
talk to us
And
about
where?
it. Yeah.
And where?
But
Yeah.
Bricolai would be verifying that what the species is and stuff like that.
Right,
Oh, okay.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Bricolai, I don't wanna speak for you, so go ahead.
No, correct. And typically, I mean, I do have a few people that are already doing this, right? Like they have bittersweet. They're technically within the 50 to 100 foot, but it's right on the edge of their lawn. So I go out and I say, you know what? If you're just gonna cut the bittersweet down and remove it, it's fine. I wasn't gonna have them come permit for it. There's just no framework in your policy to allow that to happen. So we are clarifying, or you would be clarifying that only within the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone, in existing pre-disturbed, and then approval without ratification. And I would suggest, just because new things, new methods are coming out all the time, to include language, something like, you know, with best applicable practices, conservation practices by hand, non-mechanical, you know, non-chemical, something to that nature. And then if the commission wants to provide like an instruction sheet, going into more detail, I think that would be fine. I think for bylaw purposes, because this would have to be coded into your bylaw, these admin approvals, to keep it somewhat high level to allow for flexibility in a conversation.
Okay, so, I was trying to bring up the sheet, but the computer's spinning, so I'll write this down.
We'll also get the minutes or the recording if it's easier that way.
That's true, but, so, we wanted, so this is particular to invasive species, right? Oh, wait, it did come, that's all right. Removal by hand / non-mechanical, right?
Non-chemical too.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But Japanese, not wood, you have to use chemicals.
So I wouldn't think that one would be on the list for,
Oh, okay.
I mean, as a suggestion. We
No,
gotta
'cause
make,
that one is so specific that it's kind of,
that's a pretty tough one to not have them come in with it, yeah. No chemical or pesticide, herbicide, sorry. Okay. And then, something along the lines of complies with latest best practices, right?
And something to note with admin approvals as well, it is subject to your staff's best guess, and I that's probably not the right word I want to look for. My point is that if there are large concerns, any staff member, myself included, I would assume they would call your chair. I mean, Mark and I talk almost every day.
Yeah.
So, it's not willy-nilly, you know, there's only one person out there making all these decisions.
Staffers,
Even for admin approvals, I typically just send Mark a text or an email chain and just say, by the way, I did this.
staff reserves the right to consult with commission at any time.
There you go.
Look at that.
Well done.
Okay. All right. Bricolai, would you be comfortable giving us a list? You probably better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, if you can give us a list, and then I'll add those notes to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll, I'll put that together, and then we can look at it again. But everybody feel pretty good about where we ended? I mean, it's kind of what we talked about, but might have missed stuff, or,
Well, we discussed it. Yeah, that's
All
good.
of these, only in the 50 to 100 and pre-disturbed.
correct, 100%.
Oh, yeah, there it is at
Yep.
the top.
100%.
Oh, well, it doesn't say pre-disturbed.
I put that in the notes of all of them, but we could put it up top. And then I threw on the first page from our bylaw, the definition of the 5100, just so we had it all in one place. And this is something we could show to the EDC.
There.
So, okay.
Comment.
All right, so that's good.
Comment.
And again, we'll look at it again next meeting. I'll add these ideas, but if you have anything else, right, shoot me a note, or what do you think? But I think this was, I think it was your idea, Matt, right?
Well, it does a couple things, I think. First of all, it allows her to make some decisions, and it also gives the public the option of, they can get an answer right away. They don't have to wait 2 weeks to come into a meeting
And file an
and then
MBZA.
find out that they didn't do something quite right and go for another 2
100%.
weeks
Yeah,
over something that's fairly straightforward.
absolutely.
So it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, agreed. All right, so that was good progress on that. The other end of it, I don't know if you have that other couple slides, Bricolai.
For the permitting 101?
Well, let's do the, what was it? The assessment of the bylaws and regs, and then go to permitting 101.
Oh, sure.
We'll finish up on
Is that the one that you sent Jordan?
Yep.
Slides for tonight. Yep, got it. One moment.
So, and Nicole, you have some input on this too, right? So, so at the end of the meeting last time,
Yes.
we talked about doing essentially an AI assessment of our bylaws and regs, right? If you have interest, I can send you the notes I cut and pasted from AI, but these were the summary points, right? So overall, one of the things that's, well, I'll just go down the list, right? So we were above average, right, in terms of being protective, which in a good way, but still rated as moderately protective. There are more protective towns in the Commonwealth and even abutting us. But one of the things that came across is that we tend to give ourselves the flexibility to deal with things situationally, and
Yeah.
particularly via conditions, as opposed to baking them in by statute. Personally, go
I
ahead,
agree with that 100%.
right?
That's what we're here for. If you're just gonna read off the page, we might as well go home. We don't need us.
100%. And I also think it gives us some good leverage to negotiate things to make development beneficial for the wetlands and by default, the
Yes, right.
community.
We can go this way or that way.
Right. Other areas that I saw where there was, again, more statutory regulation, restoration, and again, you think about it, I mean, we talk about restoration a lot, right? And it's a big part of our conditioning. So personally, I didn't feel that was a miss. Same with invasive species management, mitigation and replication, same thing, long-term monitoring. I think that's nice because depending on the situation, we use different timeframes. Different circumstances warrant different things. One thing I thought that was interesting, and it doesn't quite tie in, I know, Nicole, you had some comments. One of them was, I think, wildlife corridors, but was habitat review. So one thing Bricolai schooled me up on is we actually don't, there's different ways to look at habitat, right? I mean, to a certain degree, all wetlands are habitat. Do you want to put up that GIS? Yeah, this was educational for me when you talked about habitat. And one of the reasons we don't have a lot of statute, but this is available on GIS. I'd never looked at this.
So, just assuming that is my cue. So
Yes.
our bylaw does require, bylaw and regulations, as does the Wetlands Protection Act, does require a statement of habitat. When we talk about habitat in a regulatory framework, we're actually talking about priority habitats or estimated habitats of rare species or rare wildlife. So these are your threatened and endangered species. As you can see on these layers, which is the yellow, Franklin doesn't have very much habitat anyways. So from a legal regulatory framework, which I know is black and white and sterile and always not real life, this is why we don't deal with habitat. Because we don't have any. Most of Franklin is built out. Well, no, we don't have any anymore. Most of Franklin is built out, right? It's impervious. We all know that. So this is why you do not see it as much when it comes to needing to verify T&E species. There was one project in recent history where I believe most of the commissioners were around. It was 7 Charles River Road, 7 something Charles River Road. It was a failed septic system, if you recall, and they needed a letter from the National Heritage and Endangered Species Program that the tree removals that they were, or the trees they were planning to remove in their leach field would not impact habitat. Does that stimulate your brain? Anyways, that would be that formal process. So in that filing, the applicant had given us, well, they actually attested that there was no habitat. Me, in my review, I looked to see where, you know, the property was and if there was listed habitat at that site at the time. It said yes, and I emailed National Heritage and I said, here you go, we have this project in front of us, could you please do a formal review? So then National Heritage did the formal review, and then we were able to move on. So the habitat portion as well of your wetlands permit is another situation where there's this auxiliary agency that needs to provide a comment, kind of like Army Corps or the EPA. And then of course there is the generic term of habitat where everything is a habitat. And then that's where you can get into your advocacy with conditions.
Yeah, I think you had said it well to me. So you have, you know, the rare species habitat, kind of habitat with a capital H, which doesn't impact us a lot. And then you got habitat with a small h, which is kind of like the wildlife corridor. And we've had citizen comments on that a lot. You know, so I think, and you know, Nicola brought that topic up on an email, and I think it's something that's worth discussion. I'm not sure it's an easy area to create statutes around, but it, you know, my read on it was, I kind of took this as, all right, here's some additional topics we ought to be talking to applicants about, just to see where they are.
At the very least, if we just make a list of the things we just talked about, so that we can.
That's a great
discuss
idea
about it.
right there.
We may not put it in, well, this is a rule that you gotta do, but it's something that we can discuss about
Right, remember to ask.
and
Right.
remember to ask and make, yeah, there we go.
Because, and I don't know if you want to bring up the other two topics, which I thought were good ones that you had. Drought resiliency, which was another big one,
The
or climate
climate
resiliency
resiliency.
and drought.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yes, that was it. Excuse me. Well, I mean, you know, the environment is changing
Right,
all the
right.
time, and I think that we need to have something, I don't know, put in, I don't know how it would work, but to give more flexibility for the town to be able to move with the change of the climate. I think that's important. It really stood out for me with a couple of the projects we've already approved, because it's like, well, yeah, right now the conditions are okay, but then further down the road, it's just wild. We don't know what's happening and what's not. You know, is it a drought, is it not? Which brought me to the other part, which was we have a 2 growing season requirement for wetland replication, but what if we have a drought for those 2 years? So that was another point, so I didn't know if maybe we should move that. There was another town that did something like up to 5-year monitoring or something like that, so I think that should be adjusted. And like I said, I don't know what we could do for climate resilience. Upton had something, and it was in the email, I'm sorry, that they do have wording in their bylaws about climate resilience.
So, you know, I think those are interesting things to ask applicants about, you know, to see where their heads are, right? You know, if you consider, well, I mean, it's a starting point, right? Because you know, I saw some stuff on that, and I also, you know, seem to read that it's tough to organize statutes around that at this point in time. But if we put it on,
It's changing,
Right.
it's, you know.
but if we put it on our list, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking applicants. And, you know, sometimes, I mean, I feel like we do a pretty good job of that anyway. Sometimes you get something, sometimes you don't, but better if you didn't ask, right? And I'm interested to see where developers and their consultants are on some of this stuff, right? And your point on the wetlands replication, hey, have you considered the impact of drought conditions? Like, let them ask, say, well, geez, you know, maybe we wouldn't mind more than 2 growing seasons. But you know, let's let's kind of lead them to the water hole and see if they drink, right? You know, have you considered drought conditions for this? Do you have a plan for that? You know, because if we have 2 bad summers, you could be sitting here with a, you know, bowl full of dirt.
And then, but if we have them, you know, they've altered the wetland, so then they're gonna do the replication. But then how successful will that replication be? Like, how much time are you going to lose with it coming, you know, growing
Right.
to maturity? So that's the other part that it's.
But, you know, I think I'm accurate in saying this, Regal Eye, I mean, they have to, that has to be successful in 2 years regardless of the drought, right? I mean, they can't say, oh, well, there's a drought and you're off the hook. I mean,
Yes, that's true.
so, I mean, the good thing is, they're the ones who are liable for it. So let's call it out to them and get them thinking, and if, you know, if they wanna ask for more time at the end of it, I think that's a good conversation, but better to get them, let them know we're watching that, right?
What's the penalty if after the 2 years of the growing season, it just dies? What happens?
Regal Eye.
So, they have to replace it. So the commission already has a framework for making sure replication areas are successful. One, the commission typically conditions that replication areas are built first, unless they are in an area of access prior to any development. The 2-year monitoring is what's required under the Wetlands Protection Act, which is why the commission defaults to that. However, if the replication area is not successful, then the applicant cannot get certificate of occupancy, they cannot get certificate of compliance. And if they do not comply and make the replication area per plans and designs, then the commission already has the avenue to do enforcement.
Okay.
So the 2 years is the 2 years is the lowest year time frame that someone can do. But typically, like for example, off of Prospect Street, the new houses there that Marcelo Alves has done, the commission has denied those COCs because the plants have died.
Okay.
And he's not able to get it. The woman off of Populatic, 84 Populatic Street with the slope, if you all recall, very nice woman. The commission has not gifted her CO, unless you did it during my leave, but had not gifted a COC because it was not enough time for monitoring to know if the plants were successful.
Okay, but, so then why are other towns putting in monitoring up to 5 years?
Because so any bylaw, because they can, let me put
Okay.
first. But any bylaw has to be more stringent than state statute. So they can't go less than 2 years, they can only go more.
Okay.
They want to go more. If you want to go more, if you want to start conditioning more, you can. You already have that framework. It'd be nice to put it in the bylaw, but your bylaw is written in such a way that really conditions are your oyster.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
that's why I actually really like your bylaw, because you can be creative. So you can start saying 5 years. I'm not saying not to, just balancing the side, or foreshadowing, I guess. I would imagine a lot of developers are gonna say, well, can I get my certificate of occupancy then? So just forewarning, there's probably gonna be a discussion about that. Or can I get my certificate of compliance? Most developments they don't get their certificate of compliance within 2 years anyways. So that would be your argument back to them, right? I mean, it takes usually a year to permit. Then they're trying to get all their materials, they're building the second and the third year, and so at that point, I mean, why not 5? I think 5 is a great number. Or 3 to 5 anyways. I don't think 2 is enough, but that is why it is 2.
Okay. So then should we add in, if you're saying like the 2 to 3 isn't enough, should we change that?
So.
I think go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say as a recommendation, right? So, just, again, thinking about what, you know, so changing, and not that we can't, right, but changing the bylaws and the regs could be a bit of a heavy and time-consuming lift,
Okay.
right? It's gotta be approved by the town council. Fortunately for us, we're on with the EDC on September 17th. We've been told the next opening to get something on the town council agenda would be January 28. And again, these aren't reasons not to do it, but, you know, I kind of looked at this thing, and that's why I like the list idea. You know, conditions are our friend, I think, right? And I think my learning coming out of this is there's some additional questions we could be asking, right? Do you have, I wrote down drought contingency plan. Do you have a climate resiliency plan, right? You know, you've got a wetlands replication requirement. Have you thought through what that might look like in a drought? And, you know, if they say, geez, I got no idea, well, that might be a situation we can condition, well, okay, we think we really ought to extend the growing monitoring out, you know, to 3 to 5.
Instead of 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, or
Right,
whatever. we think.
100%.
Could
But
we
if-
just make it a standard condition that we monitor for 3 years?
On
Right.
the-
We don't really have to, because we got 2 years in there, but we can make it 3 years, or
Well,
we can make it 4 years, or we can make it 5 years.
Yeah, but we could have a standard condition that supersedes that and just says, 2 years is the bylaw, 3 years is what we insist on. And then if they're shady or, you know, it looks like it's gonna be problematic, we can go, you know, it's 5.
I like
Well,
it.
we can still do that, we don't,
Yeah, that way we don't have to rewrite. Basically, I'm trying to prevent Bricolai from having to rewrite
I
a custom.
appreciate that.
Custom.
So what, how does changing a standard condition work? That's a great question. I don't know the answer.
You just alter the document.
right.
The only
we just
reason
make a
that
new
the
Done.
document
condition.
is there
That's another good
to,
idea.
to prevent what Matt is saying from somebody having to just continue to rewrite them.
So,
Well,
so,
and you're gonna write the same one over and over and over, right? So
Uh-huh.
you may as well make it a standard if that's
yeah,
something
that's
we
a
wanna
great
do.
idea.
So do we have to go in front of the town council? then?
Not for conditions. That's why I was asking,
That
right?
list of standard conditions, we made them up.
We own that.
It's a great
Well,
loophole.
I don't mean to say made them up, but we
All right, I have a new
organized
list.
them. We created them.
There you go.
But we generally ask, are you okay with these conditions?
Yeah.
Well, that's always a good thing. I mean, if there's a problem, if he has a problem, tell us what it is, and we'll go that.
We do it.
And that's the other thing.
Yeah.
If a developer comes in here and you say, well, what about, the drought that's coming up, and if they give you a funny look and don't give you the right answer, then you know, well,
We got a problem.
we got a little problem right here. Let's talk about this a little bit more.
I would
That
also say
tells you,
there's a psychology piece to this, because if we list it as a standard condition, it is something that everybody complies with, right? And if
Yeah, they
we,
anticipate.
yeah,
Sorry.
if we add it as a special condition, then they're like, well, why are you targeting me? And you open yourself up to all sorts of pushback.
Absolutely.
I really like the idea of adding a standard condition
Sure.
of 3-year monitoring period.
So, sort of related to that, to your
Yeah, I see.
comments
Yeah, make it a
about,
standard,
because I think Bricolai has a very good point, that some of this stuff from a statutory standpoint is going to be realistically impossible to actually enact, and getting the town council to do it could be incredibly challenging. That does not mean, however, that the Conservation Commission, as part of our permitting, could not have a guide to best practices,
Yeah.
right? Where we sort of lay out the expectations if you are coming in front of us and you were, especially, you know, the pool, for instance, that was just here, I'm not so worried about that one. But, you know, the next big project that comes in front of us, we would expect that as a best practice, you will have a drought contingency plan, especially when it comes to any replication you have to do. We would expect that you have a climate resiliency plan for either drought coming in or excessively wet years. We know we have both.
Oh, look at, yeah.
Almost like somebody thought of this before.
Almost like we know what we're doing.
speak and ye shall receive.
However, I did not mean to stop you in your tracks, man. I was
No, that's
just
perfect.
trying to sneak this in the background. This is not owned by the Conservation Commission. This is owned by the town, and it is outdated. So 2021,
Oh.
right? But this is a framework that, you know, we can go through. So you have low impact development, site planning, stormwater, erosion, or ES controls, landscape design.
Yeah, if we had something that was specific to conservation and perhaps a little newer.
So I think that's even a better idea than the list, because it's just bigger than that, right? Best practices. So is that on our drive, Bricolai?
I can add it to your drive, and I was actually just emailing it to you now.
Okay.
I'll do both.
But I had a question, so.
Actually,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say, actually, I do think it is. I think it's in your resource library.
Okay.
But that's where I will add it if it's not.
So I am taking a policy course and I'm doing a seminar paper on the Wetlands Protection Act. It's a nightmare and I want to cry every day, every day. But so if we write this up as like how we want to do it, how is it going to legally? How are we going to have a legal leg to stand on if they?
Well, so this, I think this is where
So-
the way our bylaws are written is brilliant, because anything in there that we want to enforce
Okay.
is now a special condition.
We go to that.
But we can be a little selective, because some projects don't need it, right? Like, I mean, some projects we don't need to worry about drought resiliency. But the ones where we do, and whoever dreamt up this bylaw system, kudos, we can just condition that and they have to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I also think it's kind of a more than hey, here's legally what we're looking for, is as the commission in Franklin, come prepared to discuss this, right? Because we're gonna look for you to answer these questions. So think about them ahead of time. And then people will learn and see that, all right, this is stuff we're gonna issue conditions on. I do think the 3-year on
Special condition.
growing is a standard
Standard
is
condition,
good.
Yeah, you can put it in there
Yeah.
if you want or need it. or
It
not.
also, having that guideline sort of, because it can be more than just, climate resiliency and drought, it does sort of give us almost a mission statement,
Right.
Yes.
In case you don't find yourself every other Thursday night tuning into this absolutely engaging conversation. Here's sort of how we view this as a commission trying
Right.
to do our best to take care of the wetlands and water resources here in town.
Agreed.
And we might get fewer projects that are unpermittable. We don't seem to get a ton of
We
them.
don't,
But
we
we
get
do.
some that are very different.
Yeah,
We've had a
and-
couple that are
It might shorten it though, right?
real close.
Because if they know ahead of time sort of where our heads are, and the developers do it all the time, they know, right? But there've been one or two I've seen where I've been like, if you had watched one conservation meeting, you would have known the questions we were gonna ask.
Well, I'll tell you what else too, this fits, right, this is point 5 in the EDC
There you go.
presentation, right? I mean, communicating our
Streamlining.
thinking out front, seriously, right? So,
Well, a lot of the engineers, once they get, that work on these things, once they get a better flavor for, an additional flavor for what we're asking or what we're liable to ask, they're gonna give it to us before, when they
100%.
bring it in, and we don't have to start from dead zero again. We could, maybe we're at 50 or 60% and we can go from there.
yep.
Put your buffer
If-
zones on the plans,
Some of them pay attention.
preferably in colored lines, so we can.
That's a good one too,
I
actually.
put that in my thing to label the buffer zones. It's terrible.
Compost socks. Stop with the other stuff.
Yeah.
We've been
Yeah,
very
there's
clear.
some easy things we talk about every single time,
yeah,
aren't there?
Oh, and
Compost
And I-
socks straight up
I will say
in
these
there.
are all things that I go over with applicants ahead of time,
Yeah.
and they still just submit what they're gonna submit. Also, and I'm not defending them, but I do understand the time and cost it takes to change one single line on a plan when they know they're going to get all these other comments from the commission. So sometimes they just submit the plan that they have instead of going back
Yeah.
to the drawing board literally to change one thing when they know they're going to get X amount of comments.
My thought would be if they had a bullet pointed list of things that we will insist on, when they're doing
Yeah.
that first
Checklist.
draft, it
Yeah.
just prevents them from,
Yep.
I mean, most people I deal with on a daily basis, if you tell them exactly what's expected, like they'll do that first and then you can have the conversation. It just eliminates a round of revisions for everybody.
Yeah.
Nope, I understand. So we have instructions list,
Which clearly
on our
nobody reads.
website. But, admittedly, the instructions list has not been updated since I started because I've been anticipating this bylaw review. So I'm waiting for the bylaw, and then whatever gets moved out of the regulations, because again, regulations are just procedural and process, and the commission can create regulations on your own. You do not need to go to the council for that. We can create more process regulations if you deem fit, and then we can do the instructions. And that's where those bulleted items would ultimately go.
Okay. Louis, it looked like you might have a comment. You popped up a couple times.
He was agreeing.
No, you guys took away all my good points. It seems like we're on the same page. The one thing I think Nicole was indicating about the, like in just enforcement, what, as far as like the growing seasons, like, so I think there was maybe a couple of times where we had an applicant come in, they find this out that their COC had not closed down. And that's when they're selling the property. So it's like, it really just encourages to having that more built into it. It also with the, just kind of communicating that as well to the applicant is like, hey, what the significance of that is to make sure that it's taking. So really because, first you have, it's still open, but also if you're looking at getting, selling your property or just make, that's a thing where it's gonna kind of hit you at a point where, now you gonna have to address it and how you, so it kind of, it just more education on their end. But, really 3 years is be a good amount of time actually.
Okay.
I've got a few more thoughts.
Oh, bring it on.
Native species, for revegetation, I think we should have a standard condition that it has to be native.
You know what? That's another one we talk about all the time. All right.
Is there somewhere, I don't know whether it would be on the website or something, that we could, or make up flyers for the farmer's market? These are native species you should consider planting in your yard.
That'd be great.
Here's a native seed mix, and we don't recommend any particular company, but here's a couple companies that have New England native seed mixes. Don't plant this, plant black-eyed Susans or milkweed. Nobody's gonna plant milkweed, which is a shame because it's cool, but.
It is cool, I like milk.
Monarchs love milkweed.
Rico, you gave us you gave us milkweed seeds like 2-3 years ago.
I did,
I planted
for
those.
World Wetland Day.
Yep.
I love that you remember that, thank you.
But yeah, like if, it might be something that, in addition to a standard condition, we want to just do some outreach and sort of education on.
Sure.
Because we could.
So we have a list from the B program that was made specifically for Franklin. I can pull that out.
Okay.
Already got it.
Sounds like an AI
Got it.
flyer.
And then a couple other areas that we might already covered, I can't recall, vernal pools and potential vernal pools.
I have that actually, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I have that on my list to talk about too, Michael, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Great. Go ahead.
Nope, finish, please.
So what are you thinking around?
Well, all these things that we're talking about, many towns have put into their bylaws. So I'm still not, sounds like most of us are okay with not doing that, but I'd still like to talk more about that. I know we can't get on until 28, so it's not like tomorrow. We can do standard conditions tomorrow though, which is beautiful.
Right.
We can see how it goes.
Right.
Well, is that one of those things where if we make it a standard condition and do it for a year, it makes it a real easy argument to
Yeah.
town councils, like, look, we've done
That's a good point.
50 projects
Another
where
good
this is a
point.
standard
Yep.
condition,
Yeah, yeah.
we just
Yep.
wanna turn it into a bylaw.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like, that approach where we're coming up with new ideas, we're gonna implement them in a more subjective way, and if it works, then it's something we can go back to your point and say, hey, we'd like to make this a bylaw statute now, because
Yeah.
we practiced, we put it into practice, we've had success. And as with anything, right, we'll find things that work great with these ideas, and then we'll be like, oh, man, didn't think of that, right? But, so, I mean, there is, to your point, there's nothing wrong with revisiting it, but at
Okay.
any rate.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know a lot about it, so hopefully,
Okay.
Ricolai can, but, you know, my AI search came up with not only protecting certified vernal pools, but potential vernal pools.
Okay,
And then also, I think we already do intermittent streams and isolated wetlands, but just wanna make sure. Groundwater recharge, maybe consider that. Tree canopy, trees that are in buffer zones, really make it hard to take them down.
so, one of the things, I was looking at that tree canopy piece too, and typically the way we've been handling that, and this could be another standard condition, is we like to see the transect of trees 3 inches in diameter or over. Right, well, as part of the change is we are changing that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right, we're changing the language. That was kind of my interpretation of protecting the tree canopy, is having a good analysis of what's there and what's being taken down. But if there's more to it, you think?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to it than just knowing what's being taken down. Let's make it harder to take them down,
Okay.
I think. Protect the tree canopy in the buffer zones.
Well, we can always do that.
Well, let's make a standard condition to do that.
Well, now it's a law and you can't go by it. If there's a condition that says, well, we can't do that because we already make a bylaw that says you can't do that.
I mean,
Takes your flexibility away from you.
but one thing we may
If
want
it's
to
a-
consider as a commission is, do we want to get more stringent on what we allow?
I
Yeah.
do.
You can always
On a
vote no.
case-by-case basis,
Yeah.
perhaps.
You guys can always vote no.
Yeah.
That is the thing. Your bylaw, you control that. You don't have to allow any waivers in the 0 to 25. And
That's right.
you do, and that's okay. Situations case by case, right? But you don't have to. Your bylaw right now in the 25 to 50 does allow for tree clearing and grading, but you don't have to. You can always say no. It does not allow for any structures or impervious surface, and oftentimes the commission does approve projects that has structures and impervious surface in the 25 to 50. So you can, as Matt said, you can be more stringent. You could start turning projects down.
Or another way to look at that, right, when you think about the processes around the buffer zones is, do we tighten up on the variance? Hey, if you're gonna take down trees, replacing them. Nothing wrong with protecting them too. I think, the idea of the transect and the measuring them is so we understand the impact. And to Bricolai's point, that doesn't mean it's foregone conclusion, we're gonna say yes. But I think we wanna, better codify, what we're looking at. But to your point, if we're gonna put together a best practices document, maybe it's more along the line, we have a good variance paragraph that follows the, listing of our buffer zones. We could flush that out with, part of that, if you're gonna take trees down, is we'd like to see them replanted. I'm making suggestions, but,
Yeah, right.
that's a way of protecting the tree canopy without necessarily having to, vote down a project, but that's okay too, so.
Yeah, I don't have the answer, but
Right.
I'd love to find an answer, what's a good standard condition that does protect the canopy, not an absolute, that still
Yep.
gives us flexibility.
But I also, when you have trees in the wetland, which I can't remember where I was reading this, but you don't think of it, but they uptake so much water. So when you're removing the trees, then you're getting more water piling up and in the wetlands, and people.
Come look at my yard under my oak trees. They're the water hungry. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and there's some trees that really need to come down in mine, because they are kind of scary, but I'm like, well, geez, then you know, the water is pretty far back there, but if, you know, we take them out, then. I don't
And
know.
vernal pools, aren't vernal pools, isn't the regulation to classify that one based on some time frames that it has to be full of water 2 months here and 2 months there? We're good?
Yes,
Or
with
something
certain
like that.
with certain indicators, wildlife species, yes.
Well, with
So
a drought,
vernal,
that's, your vernal pools are gonna fade into the distance.
not, we have our ways. We have our magic ways of finding things, right? That's why we can always find where it's wet, where it looks dry. It's magic. Right? Trade secrets. But our vernal pools are already protected, and we actually have a buffer zone to vernal pools where the Wetlands Protection Act does not. So that is one area that we are more conservative. Michael is right. Our bylaw actually just stipulates vernal pool. It doesn't say certified versus potential, which is nice. So that ambiguity allows us to claim jurisdiction over both. And then typically as part of the standard notice of intent review is that we review for the potential of vernal pools around the property. If the commission recalls, off of Bench Street and the cell tower, there was a vernal pool that was not
Oh, yeah.
certified. That became certified during the process. Some of the commissioner's favorites, which I am most proud of, I am sorry to say, is Tri-County. There was a
Oh, yeah.
a vernal pool there that is becoming certified, and then we got a salamander crossing out of it. So that in that instance, right, we have nothing in our bylaw that requires a salamander crossing, but yet we were able to have that conversation. Tri-County was also amenable at that point. So, but again, it's on the applicant and how willing they are to work with us, I will admit. But the vernal pool also, going back to Nicole, that's another habitat, right? That 100-foot buffer zone. Ideally, it, as I've actually said during the public hearings for Tri-County, that buffer zone should be 1,000 feet because that's typically the farthest that most of those wildlife species will travel, but it is 100 feet, which is what we have. Yeah. And then I do have a few more
Standard
responses, but I want you guys to continue speaking. Just please don't forget to come back to me.
Let's change our standard condition for vernal pools to 1,000 feet.
Would you be able to develop anything in Franklin at 1,000 feet?
Well,
Yeah, what would you frame the condition at? I don't know if that was rhetorical or not, but
was
what would you frame the condition as
Great.
in that? No
I don't know,
work
I
in
guess
1,000 feet, no impervious surface. You need wildlife crossings under roads.
what would you recommend?
I wouldn't recommend making it a standard condition, to be honest.
Would you change it at all?
As the council dictates.
Well, no, these standard conditions won't go to council.
No, not council, but the commission.
So,
Sorry, misspoke.
you know, different way to think about it, right? Kind of going along the vein where we started, and it was interesting. I thought about it more with the trees, right? Is if you're gonna, I don't even know if I use the word significantly the way we write it, right? But in the best practices, if you're gonna reduce the tree canopy, the expectation is you're gonna come in with a replanting plan, right? That kind of puts it out there and builds the expectation that we're looking to protect the tree canopy, and if you're gonna cut, you need to replicate, right? We could do something similar, and then if they come in and they chumley that answer, then we can condition some stuff, right? But I almost like to see what their plan is, because these are professionals, they might think of things we don't. And these are just ideas, and maybe it's similar on the vernal pools, right? Hey, we know that the species in vernal pools extend their habitat well beyond the 100 feet. We'd like to see your plan to protect species habitat for vernal pools beyond 100 feet. you know, almost don't give them too many answers. Let them, and again, these are just ideas of ways to get at this. Let them tell us. But this is where if we do this best practices document, we get this stuff out here. A, it's a reminder of us to ask about it and how to ask about it, and see if we can prompt them to come in with some answers. Now, that doesn't have as much teeth as what you said, so I don't know if you're comfortable with that, but that's, I just kind of, as I was thinking about what you said on trees, struck me as a different way to skin the cat.
I think we can iterate on this too, you know?
Yeah, oh, 100%.
We have this is our first round, see how it goes.
Oh, we're not, yeah, we're not deciding, this is just
Yeah.
ideas, right?
Well, even like, you know,
Brainstorming around
when we do decide, that's not the end of the conversation, you know, standard,
100%.
standard
that's the great thing
conditions are
about the
always within our
conditions.
purview.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can, so, Mike, a question for you about the trees thought. Because it strikes me there's sort of almost 3 levels of that we deal with, right? So there's the big projects where they're gonna come in and clear cut. There's that, you know, what do you do with that, right? Because to some degree, and I think you can get into debates about this, but to some degree, large-scale development almost has to have tree removal to be efficient. I'm not gonna say practical, because people can do it without it, but they don't anymore. You then have somebody's coming in and building a house, right? And there's gonna be tree removal for that process, and I think that's a different level of discussion. And then you have the, well, you know, there's a 75-foot oak tree in my backyard and I don't like it. Are those different situations? To me, they are. You know, the folks who come in and go, well, you know, it's a 75-foot oak, it's big. Well, that's how oaks grow. On some of those, I'm more along the lines of, well, trim out the dead stuff and leave it alone. It's a perfectly healthy tree, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's in the 50-foot buffer zone. It's not bothering anybody. But I'm wondering if either, again, maybe to start with it's right, this sort of best practices. We can say, you know, if you're a homeowner and it's in the 25 to 50-foot zone, it's not sick, it doesn't pose an imminent danger, we're not going to approve, you know, as a general rule, we don't approve removal of those trees because the canopy is more valuable, right? And we can point to all the studies that show it lowers, you know, localized ground temperatures, it's good for bats and birds and butterflies and baby bunnies and polar bears and all the other things.
Uses a lot of water.
It takes up a lot of the water that would otherwise be flooding your basement and you'd be pumping out, right? So I wonder if there's almost like 3 different levels, because I feel like a lot of the tree stuff we deal with is the MBZAs, and it's, you know, some of them you look at and go, oh, it's a big dead tree, you should probably cut that down. Those, I don't think there's much, they don't have any canopy. But then there have been a few where people have come in and been like, well, I want to cut this tree down. And you look at it and go, why? It's a beautiful tree.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
absolutely nothing wrong with it. So maybe as part of sort of this best practice, we want to say, you know, if it's a perfectly healthy tree, and this is just, you know, you got a bad feeling off of it, and an arborist looked at it and went, you know, that's 4-foot around oak, it's perfectly healthy. We're not taking that down. You know, we could, and that's just, you know, we just get more stringent in the voting and sort of what we allow. But I think, to my way of thinking, there's sort of these different levels. And I do think when you're talking about clear cutting a lot, or clear cutting 15 acres, we should absolutely have all right, you're taking down this many thousands of square feet of canopy. That has very real impacts from an environmental standpoint, from a water standpoint, from a ground temperature standpoint. What are you doing to mitigate that? And what we might find is some people go, well, maybe we didn't have to cut them all down. It was really convenient, but we didn't have to. You know, I keep driving by the Grove Street project. They cut down a lot of trees there.
Yes.
And you know, you look at it and go, I understand it is much easier to move equipment around. It is much easier to grade with no trees there. But it is possible to do it without removing them.
Especially if you had to replant.
Especially if you then had to go put in 200 new trees, native species, of course.
Right, right.
Only the ones Brica lilacs.
You're my buddy today, Matt.
All sugar maples, so we can have local maple.
I'm sure we talked about that last time too.
A little
I'd like
maple
to-
tree? Is that what you said?
All maple, sugar maples.
All maple.
So we can have maple
Aw.
syrup local. But I do think this is something we should talk more about as we look at these
Yeah,
things.
you know, I really feel like Most of the trees
wanted to throw
buffer
one in there
zones
too.
shouldn't
I think Matt, you mentioned like 3 different types of how when we look at the tree removals, invasives. So I think that's, you know, taking a look at, I think that's at that point, you can kind of say, yeah, this, it's within the buffer. If it's invasive, then you know, maybe we need to kind of,
But we might still
Okay,
want to
that-
say, so, the Bartlett pears, Bradford pears, whatever those
Yeah.
were.
that's the one I was thinking about, yep.
Yeah, I just
They look
removed a
pretty,
whole
but
pile
they're
of those
not-
from my yard. But like, if one of those, you found one of those in your buffer zone and they removed it, it's an invasive. We would like that tree gone. Actually, the state has dictated they would like that tree gone. It still has canopy and still has habitat. And so you
Yeah.
could say, yes, you take that puppy down. We get rid of it. It's not even really good for firewood. But in its place, how about a nice white oak?
Yep.
You know, and start sort of being a little more stringent, I think, is about what people are doing with this, because it is important. And we are losing
So I've
tree
seen
cover in
some-
this town.
That's agreed.
So I've seen some videos where I think usually it's in Europe, where they have a machine that just basically goes around the tree, and then just, you know, there was one case where I think the parents had planted like a peach tree or something. It was, but they were selling the house. They ended up moving. They wanted to take the tree, and they actually had a company come by and just really just, you know, they dug like the shovels across, you know, around it, and they managed to move it around. So, you know, that's, in my opinion, that's great. They're saving the tree. We don't have to replant. You're just basically relocating it. So, you know, and the alternative would be cutting it down, but you know, it takes quite a bit of time for it to kind of just grow again. And so, I think I'm not sure if I seen that being practiced in this town, but it'd be a good kind of way. I'm not sure economically it may be challenging, but it's, you know, something that I kind of think about if we're looking at like healthy, you know, preserving healthy trees instead of just chopping them. So
The cheapest option is to leave them where they are.
that's
what I'm saying.
I like that option.
So, you know, if you demand replication, you may find that people get real creative about how many they actually have to take down.
I think you make a
Yeah.
good point there. So it sounds like the recommendation so far is, I heard, and again, correct me, I'm just trying to take notes, right? Interest in 2 standard conditions, one being a 3-year growth monitoring, the other requiring native species for any vegetation, with maybe a note to refer back to the species in the bee program. So those would be standard conditions we'd look at. And then I think what we're talking about is a best practices document that talks about replacement for a tree canopy. And again, this isn't the end of the conversation, you make a great point, right? And maybe some expectations around beyond the 100-foot on vernal pools, climate resiliency, drought contingency, wildlife corridors, buffer zones and plans, I like that, compost socks. You know, and if you're interested in this, I'll take a swing at a rough draft. I'll go through that document Brika Lai showed us. I'll go through the instructions on our website and see if we can come up with now that was a 47-page document, right? I think we're talking about, you know, like 1 to 3 pages. It's kind of an easy, here's what we're looking, here's our expectations around thinking on projects. I mean, is that kind of what we're thinking for, at this point, at least as a starting point, if you're interested in that?
Excellent starting point.
Okay, and then I think the you know, potential next steps are, as we find things that work, is then, you know, maybe there's a way to continue to, or consider that for, say, bylaws and more statutory, or move it into standard conditions. So give us, the thing that's nice, it gives us a good feeder process to build towards this. And I also think, I think this is, I mean, I think this has been like one of the most interesting conversations we've had since I've been in the commission. So I don't think we want to stop here, and it's just something as we continue to build, we got to revisit periodically, right? Because ideas come up. And I just think that even talking about this stuff with applicants will make us make it a better process and make it better for the commission, so. All right, so that's of interest?
Mark?
Yeah,
Okay, one thing too to consider on that, I think, is a lot of times when a person comes in, wants to cut down a tree, as Matt was saying, that, you know, well, the tree company came in and said they're all diseased. I think if that homeowner would have to provide a letter from a certified arborist, we may not be cutting down as many trees as we think the homeowner is asking for.
I think that's an interesting point, and not that I would ever impugn the reputation of any of the tree companies here, but they do have a vested interest in removing trees.
Absolutely.
That is in fact their entire business model for the most part, so.
They don't do it
That's
for
what I
free.
was thinking too.
Turns out.
I mean, if they're certified, they're gonna think twice before saying a tree is diseased.
well, a couple times, Roger, to your point, we've had the conversation where we've actually had to have them go back and get an arborist to certify it, right? So to Richard's point earlier, let's just get that done up front, right? Why? Yeah.
Exactly.
So are you comfortable with that as we move forward? I mean, we're looking for some teeth, so don't wanna, you know,
Well, I'd love more teeth, but I'm okay with this.
all right. I mean, if you've got
I
ideas.
mean, I liked Matt's idea, you know, you cut one down, you plant one. You know, could that be a standard condition? I don't know if it's enforceable if they cut.
Well,
But, you
look
know,
at
I mean,
Medway.
are they gonna be
Well-
cutting down 100 trees in the 50-foot? I hope not.
Well, shame on us if
You-
they are.
You do condition that, and you can condition that, and you have conditioned that per project. So I think the crux of this conversation now is it something you want to make standard for every single project across the board, or is it something you want to continue to discuss case by case? And I'm not arguing against more teeth. I think the identity of the commission is changing tonight to having more teeth, and I applaud you on that. But again, because my job is to play devil's advocate here a little bit. If you're going to condition replanting in the buffer zone for no matter what happens if it is a diseased tree in middle of someone's yard at the 98-foot buffer zone? And if you make it law that they have to replant it, someone's going to have to replant it. Instead of maybe making a different suggestion for that person. And then someone that wants to remove trees for a vanity project, that's what I call them, Matt, vanity project, at the 38-foot, that's when you are more stringent in your conditions. Historically, the commission has asked, okay, we understand you don't want an oak tree. Let's use that. Oak trees are the best tree. I will give that to you, Matt. But let's say you don't want an 85-foot tall tree. Could you do shrubs? The commission has done that. You know, could you do herbaceous? Could we try to get something back in there? Blueberries. Do you like to eat and forage? We've asked that question. There was the permaculture guy. He had a stream restoration in the front of his lawn, and he had bees and goats, and he was really into farming. I don't know if you recall him coming in at all, but a part of his project, the commission had conditioned fruit-bearing native shrubs because he wanted to forage. So I want to remind the commission of the power that you have today. You still have it. You can use it. You can condition these things. And if you want to make them and codify them into law, that's great, but then that also means you are stuck there. Stuck is the wrong word. You are held to that letter of the law.
Why do you want to put handcuffs on yourself? Huh? Why? You can do it, Mike. You can say,
Well,
don't
because
cut down this tree.
the more-
You want to make it so that don't ever cut down this tree if it's right here, no matter what. Well, it's a good, you can't do it now because we put it in law.
Well, standard conditions aren't law.
Wait, no, but we already have the power to do it. We can make another standard condition. We don't want to codify it, though.
Well, that's what I'm arguing, I guess, is that, you know, the less we codify, the more we have to be arbitrary, you know? People could think that we're targeting them. Well, you let them do it, huh? You know? I don't know.
That's not arbitrary. It's written in there that we have the power to go this way or that way. Because we did it over here, doesn't mean that you're gonna do it. We're gonna make the decision based on the information that you give us and where it is, where it's in the 50 or the 25. Those are all things that we're gonna put into this. And yes, you can do that, no, you can't do that. And we have the power to do that right now. You know, I can say, you shouldn't take that down there. That's a beautiful tree, it's data, it's in the wet line. They're not gonna take that down because we're not gonna allow it.
You know, something that strikes me, and you made a good point about being arbitrary, and I think part of the point of this conversation is there's some things we need to be more diligent about.
Right.
And consistent. And I agree with you. I don't think we've been consistent on replicating massive tree removal. You know, I'm just thinking, and it's all anecdotal, right? But I'm just thinking back about how many really tough conversations that we had, and we haven't, right? As good as we could, right? And I think that's the point. So I think we owe it to ourselves, and that's why I like this idea, whether it's the list or the best practices. You know, we've got a checklist, man. I think we start going through
That's
with
right.
absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
And
I think that's an excellent,
It's a good starting point.
Well,
you know, you got A, B, C, D, look at them so that you can refresh yourself every time they come in because we get tons of these. Remove
You
a tree.
received this document when you filed your applications. We're just gonna go through this checklist.
Well,
Big eyes and drop jaws will be the first 5 times we ask that question. Then people will get it, right?
But I do think there is, again, it's a psychological power in having this best practices guidelines, right? Even for MBZAs, where we just say, you know, here's the expectation. If it's in the 25-foot buffer zone and it's a healthy tree and it's not invasive, no. If it's in the 25 to 50 and it's a healthy tree and it's not invasive, you'd better have a really compelling argument why it needs to come down. If it's in the 50 to the 100 and it's in your backyard and it's dropping branches on your fence, okay, we'll consider it. But I agree with you, because my feeling on this currently is that though there are rules around it and regulations around it, they're very broad. And we're left a lot of room to interpret that. That's a good thing, right? Because there's always this tension between what do you codify and then what do you have flexibility on. But if we take the time as a commission to sit down and put in writing, these are how we think about this, you know, for this current set of commissioners, this is how we think about these projects. It does take some of the arbitrariness out of it.
Yes, I agree.
And then, you know, we have the teeth if we want them. It seems like the commission has not historically necessarily used those, but we, you know, we have that. And so I think, you know, and again, on the tree guidelines, that may need its own page. And it's, you know, if you're just talking about taking a tree out in your backyard, here's what we expect. If you're building 1 to 5 units, and you're talking about clear cutting, this is what we expect. If you're clear cutting 15 acres, you'd better come with some really good plans on what you're gonna do to replicate 15 acres of canopy, which we know has all of these sorts of very, you know, sort of important benefits, including economic benefits and other things that we can articulate. I think putting it in writing will be a phenomenal first step to making it more consistent and making it have teeth. Because then we can always just go, we told you. It was on the website.
Shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, you may not have read it. Shame on you. We went to the trouble of telling you what we were going to ask you. And then when they don't read it, we can just go, come back to us after you've read it and come up with a thought.
That putting it in writing will help staff. having it will help me, because I get the questions from developers or residents all the time. Well, how do you think the commission will vote, or what do you think they will talk about?
You don't have to
And
think.
I
There
say,
it
well,
is.
generally, and I'm smart enough to not answer for you all because that's a CYA on my part. However, I have to answer, well, historically, yesterday is Thursday. Yesterday at Tech Review, I said, well, lately the commission has been voting this way. And that's something I can back up with your decisions, but having that document would be helpful. I will note again that your regulations can denote process. So some of this discussion would be best suited in a guidebook, which I think is a great idea. And some of it would be in the regulations.
No, that's a
as
good
well.
point.
So,
Okay.
just FYI.
The other thing that writing it down does is it's institutional knowledge, right? We don't have to all remember back to the last project where this was an issue.
Yeah.
And to Bricolai's point, she doesn't have to answer the same question over and over again. She can just hand them the guidebook and go, would you read it, please?
And even longer term, we're helping pass down a legacy to future commissions, right?
Yeah, it's that institutional knowledge. It's critically important.
Yeah, that's what struck me when you said that, so.
I love what you brought up, though. I think these are really important things.
Yeah, I mean, why this was a great topic. I mean, we got a bunch of
Great discussion.
good things. So you're okay with that as a starting point?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I appreciate you putting the thought into it, and you too, Nicole, because I think we've had some great ideas, and I think everybody contributed, so this was good.
I have just a few things, and hopefully we can keep on trucking. I wanted to go back to drought conditions, something that is not codified, but something that, at least when I started, the commission has started looking at is when delineations happen throughout the year and if there's a drought. So again, that's a process. So 121 Grove Street was the most recent project that they delineated at the start of a drought. For those of you that were on the commission,
Oh,
you
yeah.
may remember that.
Yeah.
Yep. So again, that is something that we caught, just what have you. But all the same, probably good to have something written out that the Franklin Conservation Commission will not accept delineations with XYZ parameter, or will only accept delineations with XYZ parameter, and that is something that I can help with language for. Canopy and habitat, just bringing that back again. That's why you have the 0 to 25. So if you really want to protect that canopy, and I understand 25 feet realistically isn't enough, but it is something, and it's something that you have to work with. Just start denying projects that have, or start denying components of projects that are within that 0 to 25. I think the consistency and the diligence to your chair's comment is critical here. Clear cutting, agreed. I couldn't shout that loud enough. Something that I have hoped would have come up in conversations organically, that I feel comfortable saying now that we don't have such high profile projects in front of us, is selectively choosing to keep certain trees. There were a few trees for 121 Grove Street that I tried on the back end with the applicant to keep, and because it's out of jurisdiction and because it wasn't conditioned and because of all these things, they're gone. But if the commission wanted to take a more stringent approach to that, that would be great. So that is where your transect sampling comes into play, when they're identifying trees of a certain size. If you want to codify, go ahead.
Just as a point of clarification, so trees you were looking to save, was that species oriented or just location oriented?
Or age,
It was
size.
trees of a certain size.
Oh, okay.
Size, and then there were a few trees, the original apple trees. So that was more of as I said earlier on our pregame, I'm a romantic. So it was more trying to preserve the cultural history of the site.
But that's also the beauty of having a discussion and leverage, right? because, you know, may we can provide relief on replication if you would, even though those apple trees aren't jurisdictional, if you agree to leave those, we'll give you a little relief. You know, that's why I love the negotiation part of it, right?
Yep, I do too, to be honest.
Well,
I mean, I think having a checklist, if there is a need to have a checklist for the commissioners, that is something that, you know, I mean, you guys know what you need to know, or maybe you don't know what you don't know. But Jordan and I can also help facilitate. I think that's a really good idea to help with that, guide that negotiation.
Well, we have
Just little pointers.
We have requirements for endangered species, so why can't we have a requirement for protected trees, you know?
You can, we just have to design those requirements. I think Matt brought up Medway. I worked in Medway. I consulted in Medway under Bridget and their commission, and their tree, the language that they have for trees, I remember being pretty substantial.
It's incredibly stringent, yeah.
Bridget was a reference for me for Franklin. So I'm glad I did very well. I was on her good side as a consultant, and I'm happy about that.
To your point about the original apple trees and sort of providing relief, and going back to Louis' comment about moving trees, I mean, that could have been a case where we could have said, you know, you got to bring in a professional who's got the machine to pick these puppies up, and we want them, you know, maybe there was a piece of conservation land or someplace we could have moved them.
Yeah.
And said, as
Even
part
better.
of this, you know, we'll give you a little bit of wiggle room here, but you got to save those. And it's perhaps not jurisdictional, but it gives us a negotiation point.
So that was a tough one because it was a friendly 40B.
Wow,
And
yeah.
we have like
I know.
zero leverage on those. But, you know, so what about, a standard condition on trees of a certain size? You know, and like, so when we get this measurement of everything over 3 inches, we don't know how much over 3 inches, do we? We just know there's 25 trees at least 3 inches diameter.
Yep.
Well,
we
would that
want-
be something where Bricolai, is there sort of an accepted standard of trees over a certain diameter are considered particularly?
Correct.
So
Yes.
could we
So you would just
include
use
it as
that.
part of the process? You need to do the transept, and then you need to do a survey of anything over 2 feet, 18 inches, whatever that size required, sort of accepted size is, because we want to know where they all are.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
what is that size?
I'm guessing it's species
I
dependent.
would have, it would be dependent on what species of tree.
Okay.
So I would just suggest, let me rephrase. You could do a flat size, DBH, diameter at breast height, but I would suggest doing it per species, since different species grow at different rates. And with the myriad of invasive species that we have attacking our trees, sometimes perhaps, you know, an ash tree that really is only 1 inch DBH may be the one that you want to save versus an ash tree that is 7-inch DBH because of.
Nothing wrong with
how-
having a list of species and diameters. I mean, we can attach that as a reference, right? I mean, that's,
So that can be a process. That's also something that would be included on a plan set. So
all right.
what you require on a plan set doesn't necessarily need to be in the bylaw, but what you're requiring for your filing and the details on that plan set is in your regulation.
So that we can do without town council.
Correct.
So that would give us some teeth.
Yeah, sounds good.
So, in addition, so we're talking about so we've got this already in the bylaw, a transect of trees over 3 inches. We're looking to supplement that with, we'll have a list, or we'll be looking for a denotation on plans of specific trees over a certain size by species, referencing a list we provide. Is that, I like that.
I like it. Is that too hard, though? I mean, who knows,
No.
you know, is that a red oak or a white oak, you know, is
Well,
that a?
any arborist worth their name does.
Right, but are we
Well,
gonna
we
look-
know that. Wetland scientists know that. Everybody, sorry, I don't mean to be diminishing, but everybody in the sector, like, that's what we're trained to do, so the people that are filling out notices of intents are going to know that information.
Okay, I thought that might be a little too onerous, but if you're good with it, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
we're talking
I'm-
about it, right? I think it's a cool idea, but, and if it's, you know,
If we're gonna go down
We-
that road, at the same, while they're doing that, do we also want them to demarc anything that's invasive? Any invasive species
I
of
think-
tree?
Of tree, that would be fine. I was gonna say anything invasive would be a really hard look, considering
Well,
all
yes.
the herbaceous.
Including most of our lawns.
Yes, Kentucky bluegrass.
I won't tell you what I have planted.
No.
okay, so I potential ID invasive trees as well. Okay.
Because we might wanna say, you know, you gotta take those out, but we want you to replicate them, and anything that's over a certain size, we don't want you to touch if at all possible, if at all practical.
Yes, but.
We can already say that.
Yeah,
even
but
though
we don't
it's-
make them tell us what's there.
But even though it's
can.
invasive, it still provides.
Well,
know,
those you would want
shade, and
replicated.
And it
Yeah.
provides habitat for birds and squirrels and insects, so that's kinda hard to say to take that out. I mean, it's already there, so.
But at least we'll know. you know.
Yes, we'll know.
So
We'll
we
know.
don't, yeah.
I think it, yeah, it's part of a holistic conversation,
Yeah,
you know, so we know what's in that canopy, to your point, and make better educated decisions
Yeah,
about
yeah.
how we think it could be handled, what should be replicated, you know. What do we really push to have preserved, maybe even relocated, you know?
I think, Richard, the point is, the only point is we want them to tell us what's there. We can decide what to do with that information on a case-by-case basis, but just start with, tell us
Yep.
what's there.
Better details, right, so we can make a more educated
Well, you got two
decision.
different,
recommend-
basically two different situations there. You got the guy that wants to cut down some trees in his backyard.
Yeah, that's a different situation.
And then we got the guy that's gonna build a big warehouse out there.
Yeah.
And he's gotta cut them down.
Yeah. But
So
we
he's
don't,
going to clear cut those
but we don't
things.
have the information today. So the guy who's gonna clear cut for the warehouse, he's gonna have to clear cut, right?
Yeah.
We know that, but what it does is if we look at that and go, well, you're cutting down 7 oaks that are 3 foot in diameter at DBH. That's a significant impact to the local environment. We would like you to find some place on the property to replant trees.
Well, you could just say that, well, we already have that ability, don't we?
We do, but nowhere in the process does it say we have to do the survey of large trees. The only thing the survey says is across the transept, identify everything over 3 inches.
Right.
But there's no identify everything over 3 inches and give us their diameters. Because on that transept, you could have a tree that's 3 inches and a tree that's 7 feet,
Yeah.
or you could have 14 trees that are 3 inches. Well, those are different.
Yeah.
How you treat that might be different. The one that's 7 feet, you might try to encourage them to leave alone. It'd be cool to have a tree in the middle of your warehouse. It's hard to
If it's in
seal
his
it.
footprint, he's gotta cut it down. If it's not in his footprint, then we could say, don't cut that one down.
Yeah, but we don't know today whether that tree is there.
And I think to the point earlier, if they know they gotta replicate that somewhere, oh geez, maybe that one doesn't have to come down, you know? And I don't think we've been as diligent with that follow-up conversation about replacing trees, and that's
I do too.
a huge win.
The idea is not to tell people they can't do it. It's to give us the information and make them pause for a moment to think about, you know, if there really was a 250-year-old tree in the middle of that property, could he would there be a way to change the location of the warehouse to save it?
I mean, we're making
And
more informed decisions at the
Yeah,
end.
and still allow the development to happen. The goal is not to stop that, it's just to do it in as environmentally friendly a way as possible within our jurisdiction. I don't think we want to codify the response to the presence of the tree. We want to codify that,
I don't think we wanna codify, we wanna
regulate the presence of
We
the trees.
want to have a list of things that we'd like you to do, or that we can,
Well, for the
tell
trees,
you
I
to
think
do.
what we're talking about is actually having it as part of the process in the NOI.
Yeah, I think we're talking about regulation,
Yeah.
But it's a regulation, it's not a bylaw.
which, yeah. So
And it's just that you have to do the survey.
we're requiring them to provide the information.
Yeah.
And that's, nothing wrong with that.
Because they've got somebody out there doing it already. If they're doing the transept, you know, they're out there already. It's, I'm guessing for most projects, Bricolai, this is not a significant number of hours to walk around and look at big trees.
No, in fact, as wetland scientists, when we're actually delineating wetlands, we have to look at the canopy and the dominance and prevalence index of tree species.
So we just want
at
them to
least
put it
for-
on the plans.
You just want to put them on the plate. Yeah.
So a lot of times I feel like, you know, if they have a big acreage, they'll say, can we just do a subsection of it and then extrapolate? That may not be okay in this case. We will want them to look everywhere for those 3-foot trees.
Fortunately, we are getting to a point in this, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, there aren't a lot of big
That's true.
properties left to do that to.
That's true.
But I think, you know, I think there's two pieces to your point. It's a good catch, right? You know, still good to have a transect of the 3-inch or greater, you know, just to get an idea of what the total tree canopy count is. But you're right, if we're gonna talk about larger trees, we don't want that just in the transect. We want
No,
the
that's
whole-
full property.
that's the
or
whole
full.
kit and caboodle, right?
Everything
'cause
within
it
our
could-
jurisdiction, right? Because I don't know that we can necessitate that outside the wetland buffer zones.
Good point. I mean, yeah, this is all jurisdictional
Yeah.
stuff.
I wish that was our jurisdiction, but it's not.
Yeah, well, that's a good point
We
too.
can change it in the bylaw. In 28.
Mark, another thing too is, doesn't the bylaw right now say 1 inch, but we keep moving it to 3, but we've never actually changed?
So as part of the redlining of the document, we did propose to move that to 3 inches in the,
Okay,
yeah, so we are looking to make that and add the transect verbiage. So that would be
Yep.
a change we talked about.
okay, thank you.
No, yeah, no, good catch, right? Since we do it every single time, so. Okay. All right, so,
Hey, Mark,
go
I
ahead,
did just
Louis.
just an idea here. You know, oftentimes when the applicant comes over, they presented the drawings and they have a lot of information there, and just to kind of help us understand what the layout is when it comes to like the wetlands. They overlay a lot of stuff, so I think just, you know, part of that checklist is that a suggestion that we have a plants, just one of the plants designated as, you know, just don't show like the utilities or anything, like just basically the wetlands, because sometimes we see a lot of overlay information, which is kind of makes it difficult for us to kind of like look
Oh.
at that and see if it's, you know, oftentimes I think I answer for the group is like, hey, oh yeah, this means, you know, this is where the wetland is, or suppose sometimes to just kind of separate the two pieces of information from like the proposed, you know, what's existing and it just really in between the existing and the proposed, but just have like a designated page to call out wetlands, including the trees, including the, you know, the buffer zones. And then that way, you know, we're not spending a lot of time, you know, we're not trying to decipher exactly what this all means. So it's just kind of just a thought as, you know, just to make ourselves better educated and have, you know, make a good decision here.
So that'd be a regulation, so a plan set page specific and only showing wetlands, other, well, I guess we'd say wetlands and or resources, and then we could add trees to that
Resources.
too,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's a good idea, because you're right, a lot of times we're, you know, hunting around on those documents, there's so much information, that's a good add.
If we could color code it, even better.
Yeah,
I mean, is that something where you want existing and proposed wetland status
Yeah,
for the
and
project?
that can be the, you know, especially if they're under the proposed, if they change some items in there. I would like, you know,
Yeah, if they're
depending
gonna
on,
remove
you know,
trees or
oftentimes, like, you know,
replicate
it
or
would be
whatever.
nice to, yeah, to see what
Okay.
they changed after the fact. You
all
know,
right,
so.
that's real, oh boy, that's a, yeah. that'd save us some headaches. All right, so good conversation. I'll take an initial swing. I don't think it'll be for the meeting in 2 weeks, but maybe 2 meetings from now, I'll see if I can get some kind of rough draft together we can toss around. I mean, we're not gonna finalize it, right, to your point, this will be a multi-tier, but I think this is a great move forward,
Yeah.
just to be more diligent on this stuff. So, great ideas. Okay. Everybody good on that? All right.
Yep.
Great stuff. Trying to think if there's anything else on the bylaws and regulations we needed to get at. Bricolage, I think that was it.
That's it.
Okay, all right. Franklin Town Forest.
Sorry.
So where we left off on this, and then Nicole, we did want to make sure you had an opportunity to look at that document, that the beta proposal.
Oh, I did.
So where we, just to recap, where I think we left off, right, is we had Beta last time split out the cost for just doing the bridges, and then if we were to do the stream crossing, again, this is just permitting, stream crossing later, and it would be more if they were split out because you lose some economies of scale, I guess. So it seemed like there's an inclination to keep that together, but we can discuss that. So that would be for permitting, then we would have 3 years to execute either. Bricolage had kind of a neat idea, I don't know if this is a good segue, on the stream crossing that I think we could take a look at, right?
The extension of the notice of intent or the SNAP mini grant?
Mini grant.
Yes. So coincidentally, last week, SNAP, it's a regional planning agency, just came out with a mini grant. It's up to $10,000 one-time cost for projects. Costs can go towards trees, plantings, or any sort of native vegetation, erosion controls, and soil, which are the 3 things that you need to actually do a stream restoration. Most grants, this is on a side, I'm not trying to push you towards any decision, but most grants like to see permitting in place before you apply. So if the commission does decide to move forward with the town forest, I would like to pursue this grant to see if I can get money for construction. Obviously, it's not permitted yet, and the stream restoration is likely going to be more than $10,000 once we have to pay practitioners to actually rebuild the stream. But that is an opportunity I would like to do if the commission would like that. Otherwise, there are some other opportunities that the grant could go towards.
So potential opportunity to defer some costs, not of the permitting, but of the actual work
Yes.
to do the stream crossing, which nice find, so that's good. So that seemed to be where we were, but you had an opportunity to opine or make comments on any of that, so didn't know if you had anything you wanted to weigh in on.
No, I just had, just those questions that were already answered, and
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, we didn't want
No,
to
thank
make any
you.
decisions
No.
without you, so.
No, I'm good. I think it's a great opportunity, so.
So before one question about the proposal from Beta. I know Beta is our preferred vendor for this sort of stuff. Given the dollar volume we are talking about just for the permitting alone, and Bricolage, you would know better, I think, than any of us, the other players in this space, is it worth having a second proposal for this?
I'm apt to say no. So other
Okay.
than the town actually having a contract with Beta and the commission having a contract with Beta, which I do not believe actually prohibits you from seeking another quote, it does allow us to move forward with Beta without having to go through an RFP procurement process because we have that contract. I have found in my tenure consulting and working with the town that you are apt to spend more money going with someone else because there will be more revisions than going with Beta, who generally gets it right the first time. So I think they're worth the cost. They're a one-stop shop as well. So they, other than not doing the stream restoration themselves, you know, they have their own GIS department, they have their own engineers, they have their own stormwater engineers, civil and stormwater engineers, they have their own wetland scientists. So they don't need to contract out with somebody else. Like, for example, some of our other projects where we have one engineering company and then, you know, wetland scientists come in from somewhere else, and then you have a landscape architect.
Fair enough.
But it's really up to the commission. I know Beta is generally mid to upper for cost. But again, I think we would get the benefit of just having a permit well done, right, and sailing through the process.
So, good question. Other thoughts or questions on this?
So when we say permitting, that's before us. And
How does that
and
work?
our third-party reviewer would be Beta, who's who's gonna review Beta's work?
So
Commission,
yeah.
the commission and I. But that's another reason why I would suggest Beta. Beta knows Franklin bylaw. Beta, we've reviewed their work time and time again, or at least their peer review work, and they get it right the first time. So that is where that comment comes. So it wouldn't be peer reviewed; it would be reviewed.
Okay, thank you.
And then the Franklin Conservation Commission will be applying for an NOI for us?
Yes, essentially. I mean, at this point, it's just permitting under the Wetlands Protection Act and local bylaw, but DEP is still gonna provide comments.
Got it.
Right? Army Corps is still gonna provide comments. So I understand it's a little bit of a vacuum and regulatorily probably strange.
So the way it shook out, right, is if we have them permit for both projects, if we want to call it the bridges being one and the stream crossing two, was 35 grand, right? And if we did them separately, it would be 50,600. The bridges itself was 27.3, so for essentially 7,700 extra dollars, we get the stream crossing, which would have been 27.3 on its own. So
So it's almost like a twofer.
that's a good way to put it, Roger. It's yeah.
Doesn't take much thinking of.
But
which way to
BOFO,
go.
right? Is that what BOGO, not BOGO, right? So I mean, do we want to vote on this and move forward?
So-
Go ahead.
So Mark, I did have a comment on their,
Oh, yes.
on their scope of work, their proposal. So just the wording, I think it's a carryover from the earlier proposal on 7.1. So it's just, I think it's on section, the scope of work, section I.1. There's, I think it's the second sentence, just because they added the scope for design, I think it was, instead of, where previously it was permitting, I think they just kept the same verbiage, so I just kind of wanted to make sure that if we accept this, instead of it reading on, while the footprint for the proposed work will be provided for permitting purposes, the actual design of the footbridges will be noted as quote-unquote by others and won't be completed by the contractor retained by the town. So that statement, I believe it should be reworded that they will do the permitting and the design and provide us the design drawings to make this happen. So that's kind of my comment to all this. And so I just kind of wanted to just clarify that that is the case on this one. When we are looking at the stream crossings and, you know, the removal of all that.
So good catch, so we'd submit that with all the other comments we made over the last couple meetings and have them
Yeah.
come back to us with a official red line
Yeah.
document.
Yeah, I believe it's a carryover, so I
Yeah,
don't think they updated that one sentence, but it's just because it's being added now, that should be also changing as well. I have you know, I get a reword, they can reword it, or I can provide a suggestion to them.
why don't you shoot the email to Brika Louie, and that way she can submit it to Beta with all her comments, but if you've got the verbiage, why don't you get it, if you're cool with that?
Okay,
I think that'd be great.
all right, got it.
Okay. So what we'd be looking at is approving the expenditure up to $35,000 for the permitting of the bridge crossings and the stream restoration in the Franklin Town Forest. All in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody against? All right, so we've passed that.
Well done.
All right.
Congratulations, commissioners.
And thanks for looking up that grant. I mean, that would be huge if we can cover a good chunk of the cost of that. That'd be good. The other topic we had is Bricolai is attending a conference on beavers, one of our favorite topics out in Minnesota. There's some travel expenses. She did receive a scholarship grant that defers a lot of the cost of this, but there are some travel expenses to get out there. So we wanted to potentially approve, it's got a number here, but I think actually we were looking to potentially approve up to $1,500 in total travel expenses. Is that correct, Bricolai?
Yeah, so I got a $600 scholarship grant to help with travel expenses. The admission to the conference and then just transportation is what I would be asking for. So admissions to the conference just for 3 days with no additional workshops is $600. And then transportation, obviously I'd have to get a vehicle, which is no different than per diem if I was going to a conference in Boston. It just so happens that BeaverCon is out in Minneapolis.
So, but it was up to $1,500 we were looking to approve, right?
Correct. Well,
Yeah.
yes, I had asked for 1,000 this morning and was told to ask for more, so.
Well, we just want to make
Yes.
sure we have it covered, right? You're just traveling on Concom business, so,
I
Just because we
appreciate
approve it
that.
doesn't mean you have to spend it.
right, she's like
That's
Dana.
exactly,
She don't,
anything I don't spend.
We get back.
It's returned.
we don't want her hitchhiking out.
No, we
Okay,
can't.
that's, so,
Wouldn't we include room and board? I mean, she's obviously gonna live somewhere while she's out there. Why wouldn't it be travel and expenses?
You are very kind, Roger. I actually have lodging available.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I probably wouldn't accept it anyways. I mean, I didn't want to accept, I had offered, I was going to pay for gas, I was going to pay for half of the car, so it's actually at the encouragement of your chair to ask for this, and I'm fine asking for what I have asked for. So I would not ask the commission to cover for food or meals or anything like
Well,
that.
you're there on commission business, right?
that's how I looked at it.
Right,
We've all
yeah.
done
So
business
this
travel.
is business travel, so.
Business travel, it's
you-
expensive.
Yeah, you should expense that.
That was my, 100%.
Yeah, well, that's where I was going. I mean, whenever I traveled for business, you'd submit everything. You know, airfare, car rental, meals. So I would think we would want to okay that. I mean, it's great that you have some place to stay, but in the future, if you didn't and we were doing this, I mean, any other company would do it for an employee.
Agreed.
Roger.
And we should do it.
So what would you actually need then if you take all that into consideration? I assume there's a
I think the-
standard town per diem for travel and all that.
There is. I'm not up to speed on the latest one, considering my current working situation and my leave last year. The 1,500. So my admissions for the 3-day conference, and then my car shakes out to 1,018. So approving up to 1,500, I think, is more than substantial, just for gas alone.
So, but you're there 3 days, you're flying in the day before, flying out the day after. So that's 5 days of meals.
Yes.
I would
And the
think
5-day car rental, which is very expensive.
yes, plus gas. I wouldn't think 1,500 is enough.
Yeah, I mean,
Convertible Maserati?
Yeah, right. I'm gonna pull the AJ Alavisos and get the Mustang every time.
No little yellow car?
No little yellow car, no little Prius, no.
all right. So, up to 2,000?
I think that's reasonable. I mean,
Okay.
that does not seem like an
I agree.
unreasonable amount for 5 days
5
of travel.
Right?
Yeah.
Wowza, thank you.
Well,
I
it's-
know, you
we're
didn't
glad
make
you're
me cry.
going, and we'll get a cool presentation out of it, so.
But you have to
You
bring
are,
a beaver
yes.
back, right? Because that's the point of BeaverCon is to bring beavers back.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I had already committed to getting a beaver swag for everybody. So
Well, that's it right
Done.
there. Sold.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so all in favor of approving travel expenses up to $2,000 for Bricolai to attend BeaverCon? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you for going, Bricolai.
thank you.
Just,
Bring Nicole back a hat, she's freezing.
yeah,
The vents right
I'm
here.
so cold too, Nicole. My voice started shaking when I was talking about expenses. So agreed. I don't know what it is.
one last thing, and maybe this will be just food for thought for the next meeting, though we can certainly talk about it if you want. So just quickly, right, we talked to Kate about getting the most nutrient-dense wetlands identified in the town. She kind of went through her data set and came up with a different approach and was able to get us actually the top 10 to 20 commercial locations with the most impervious space. She wasn't able to get what we asked, but came back with a good alternative. So people with a lot of impervious space are probably dumping a lot of nutrients. So we've got a little different approach, right? And we want to think about, all right, with that data, what would we want to do? How would we want to potentially approach those commercial? They're commercial. They don't have to be, but they are commercial businesses, right? As you can imagine. So maybe just noodle that one around and think about it. I think it just kind of alters what we were talking about, not in a bad way. But I think it's something we want to discuss further. It was a good idea, and I think there's still something there, but we just want to figure out how we get at that.
Is this in regard to the leaf thing, or is this something different?
So it came out of the leaf thing, right? And what we talked about was getting wetlands that have a high phosphate content, right? And then talking to abutters around those about what they might do to mitigate phosphate going into those resources. So we weren't able to get that information.
You have to sample that.
Right.
My one thought would be if you have a lot of impervious area, chances are you're not dropping a lot of trees or a lot of leaves on your property because you took them all down. So are they the major source of phosphate in the water?
I mean, that's speculative, I guess.
I'm just wondering whether the data supports what we're trying to do in that case.
Good discussion point.
Yeah, because I would think,
This,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay. I was just gonna say, to clarify, this wasn't beta. This is
Yeah.
our town stormwater department, and then we have a separate stormwater consultant. I don't know who that is. It's not Beta. I don't know if you said Beta or they.
Kate.
Kate,
Kate. Oh my gosh. Okay, I heard the T then. All right, continue.
But I think that for I think it would be more stormwater, like how is that being mitigated? Because if you have the water running off of the impervious surfaces, then it's running down and then it's moving those leaves that are falling in the wetlands.
or road salt, ice melt.
Well, but they use calcium, don't they, use calcium chloride?
Well, that's good point.
So it's
Good
not,
point.
it's,
Well, and how do you stop that from running off?
you can't, yeah, I mean, if you're talking about phosphate, then that's something different than the road salt, because then that.
Good point, I hadn't thought of that, yeah.
That would be different, but if we're talking about runoff, then it's pushing, it's eroding the leaves further down into more of a, a stream and then decaying. But I don't know. But everyone talks about, like, there's other things that the leaves are doing too, because,
Right.
there's so much more science behind the leaves, so I don't know. I don't know if that's really a feasible thing for us to be doing. I don't know.
How big a
Unless you're gonna
difference?
talk about mitigating the stormwater.
So Bricolai, from your discussions, right, the issue is the leaves go into the stormwater catch basins, they sit there, they create this phosphate soup, and then that gets discharged into the Charles. How much of this is simply encouraging residents to go out with their leaf blower and get the leaves off the sidewalk so they don't go into the storm drain?
But they're putting,
Good luck.
Knocking it out of the park.
Well, I know, but like, I mean, this seems like that's an education thing,
it
because
is, yeah.
if that's the major source, the Stop and Shop plaza down there, they're not letting off any leaves. They got rid of them all. There aren't any. It would be great if that was their problem, but they solved that problem years ago. So I'm not sure going to them and being like, hey, you should really think about what you're doing with your leaves, and they'll look at you and go, we don't have any leaves, we
Yeah,
solved
we've
that.
got like 3 leaves.
Yeah, 3 leaf. We can go and pick them up if that makes a big difference for you.
Well,
but-
that's a good
And
point,
then
right?
they just
But-
throw it in the wetlands anyways, so.
Yeah, but like I look at, so where I live, there's a crosswalk, and every year there's a pile of leaves a foot deep and 30 feet long and the full width of the sidewalk that's just sitting there making toxic soup basically the whole time. And what we really want to do is convince people that that's, not only is it just civically not particularly
Design.
well-intentioned,
Yeah.
it's also an environmental disaster. And, we live right on Minebrook, not the Charles side of it, but, so, yeah, I mean, I know where that's going.
Yeah.
I can actually draw the path for you, it's not hard.
But have we ever thought of, how they send the Franklin News paper out? Why can't we ever put an article in that? Is there something? can
Does
we not
anybody
do
read
that?
it?
We could do
Maybe
that,
Occasionally.
or the Franklin Observer, right? Alan Earls.
Town Facebook, you're more likely to get people
I think
there.
we need the leaf police.
The other thing is, it's a little late, but right, we're gonna be at the farmer's market on October 30th, right? I mean, that'd be a good place
Big.
to have a placard and hand some stuff out, you know?
Pick up your leaves.
So maybe that's a good retool is,
No, it's not pick up your leaves, it's get your leaves off impervious surfaces. Leave
Exactly.
the leaves.
leave.
Leave the leaves.
Otherwise, Bricolai is showing up to pick up all the insect eggs.
Well, yes.
But where's she gonna put them?
Back in people's yards, so they have to deal with them.
Eco-terrorism. I'm just gonna throw them right back.
It's hard to leave the leaves though, because they blow.
They do.
It's very windy in the fall,
They do.
but, yeah.
But yeah, I'm wondering.
Yeah, they blow, but they blow up against the trees and the bushes and over there so that,
And
they're
also-
all in one spot so you can go pick them up. Take them out back and grind them up and make mulch out of them.
Yeah.
So it sounds like maybe the action is we want to retool to some educational process around leaves for the coming fall, right? Develop a flyer for the farmer's market, maybe put something, maybe the same thing could be appropriate for social media. and then we want to try and get something published, right? Anybody want to take an initial shot at a leaf flyer?
Don't look at me.
I'm working on
That
my
would be on
wetlands
my
protection act
capabilities.
paper. I really want to.
Okay. Well, maybe we table this for a couple meetings and come back to it if everybody's comfortable with that.
Can we have our friend chat or Claude do something?
Our friend?
Our friend, he's my friend. I don't know. I call him Chat. I don't know. He finds me all kind of
Commissioners.
resources.
Do you know, I have to say, and this is just off the cuff, but the amount of AI usage that the Franklin Conservation Commission uses when trying to protect water resources, the situational comedy does not surpass it.
Oh, man. Ooh.
Good point.
I just have to say.
All right, fair. All right, so it sounds like maybe we'll, do we have that on our list of projects, Bricolai?
We do.
All right,
Yes.
maybe we'll do is in a couple meetings, or maybe even next meeting, we can, actually, Jordan, you want to throw that on the agenda for next meeting? Maybe we relook at our list of projects.
I will try to write. I'll try to write something up.
Okay.
I will try.
All right, that appreciate it, that's great, okay. That's all we had on the agenda.
I have just a few things.
Is the CPC ever going to have a meeting?
Oh, jeez.
And what use is the CPC if it never has a meeting? Maybe they're just meeting individually. I did call, but I didn't call until just
Chris here?
recently.
Yeah,
I didn't hear anything back yet. I'll make another call, but
all right.
you and Brika, do you have any information on that?
No, sorry,
No.
I wanted to talk about Riverbend. That's why I was raising my hand. No, I don't have anything about CPC, other than I have money to return that I'm just waiting to return.
It's amazing.
That is wild.
Why do we have a committee? Anyway, whatever.
All right, on to Riverbend, or?
Yes, just real quick. I know it's been a long night, but I wanted to let the commissioners know. I'll start with the soft dopamine hit. I have ordered over 500 trees and seedlings to plant up at Riverbend, which Matt, you mentioning maple earlier, which I think you mentioned just for maple syrup. But I did order a handful of maple leaf viburnum. My daughter's name is Maple, Matt, just FYI. So, I did take the liberty of getting some of those, but a lot of white oaks, some sassafras, some sweet fern.
Keep going.
We did not get to tulip tree, Roger. I
Oh,
took it
boy.
off the list. I took it off the list. Tom and I spoke. And we both said, you know, we never see a tulip tree just in the woods. It's always in someone's lawn doing its.
Well, I might take care of that for you.
It's gonna
I'm
bootleg some
sorry.
tulip trees in.
That's okay. Okay.
Sorry. So anyways, so that was a fun shopping day. So thank you to Derek Adams at DPW for that. And we got our tree farm certification.
Woo!
Yes.
Nice.
So that shows that we practice good forestry out there. There are only 500 sites in Massachusetts, which includes private residences and municipalities. There's only 7 municipalities that have a tree farm. Quick parameters around tree farm. It is no longer a farm for trees, the definition. It is also a forested area that practices conservation. So, but that's very exciting. We'll get a new sign up there. We're gonna clean up the kiosk, and our communications director is going to do a story on it. So congratulations. You all on Earth Day planted the first climate plot that Tom and I have been working on. As I mentioned in past, we have 2 more, and now we'll be able to keep on going. So
That's really cool.
thank you. Oh, and I guess while we're talking about money, the town forest, our cost share application for the forest stewardship plan was also approved with DCR. For those of you that don't know, the cost share application is essentially DCR giving municipalities money or reimbursing municipalities for the cost of a forest stewardship plan by an approved forester. So this will be the 5th forest stewardship plan that is in the town of Franklin. 4 of which are on your properties. The 5th one is Schmidt's Farm.
All right.
Awesome.
Yes.
Bricolite, quick question. You said you ordered those trees for Riverbend?
I did.
And do we have plans to put them in the ground?
Not yet. I'm waiting for Tom to call me back.
Okay.
Yep. I called him yesterday and I texted him today. And he told me tomorrow or Monday. So I will.
Okay.
Roger,
I'll
it
let
sounds
you
like
all
you get
know.
a shovel that's feeling a little, you know.
You must have a number 2 shovel someplace on your property. Go out there and start digging.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll bring it back.
I will.
I'd be more than happy to help plant oak trees.
Oh, right.
Or-
You're not going to chuck them in the river?
Or tulip trees, right?
Well, no, hey.
I'm glad everybody else is in this long-standing battle between Roger and I between the best tree. So, this is good. I also I'm sure nobody's watching at 9:17 p.m., but I wanted to extend a thank you to the Franklin Fire Department and actually to Roger for his suggestion. Tom and I did not know how we were going to water the trees during our last planting, and the fire department gave me a generator, a pump, and 75 feet of tubing
Right
that
on.
I, speaking of my little yellow Prius, shoved all of it into my little yellow Prius with, oh God, I don't know, 14 little tree seedlings and 2 buckets and a watering can from Roger and what's the other tool that you gifted me?
Oh,
For that
some kind of
day.
spade, I forgot now.
Yeah, some sort of spade, and I packaged it all up in the little yellow Prius and went to Riverbend. So it was very nice of the fire department.
It was a hot day too, I think.
It was a very hot day, so didn't want to keep going up that grade with a 5-gallon bucket from the river.
Well, that would have been rough. That's steep.
Yes.
That's steep.
Yes, it's very steep. We mobilize with sleds, actually. That's what we do, and then we haul everything down by the sled and bring the pipe back up. And then as long as it's up, it's up. So. Anyways, that's all I got.
Good stuff.
Yes, thank you.
All right, anything else? Parka?
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Well, you have a vest.
Yeah, well, should have brought the vest. All right, I think that's it. So we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Give you a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great meeting. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Aye.